One of the misunderstood behaviours in autistic people is the repetition of words and sounds. This is called echolalia. The misunderstanding comes because from outward appearances it might seem as though this repetition serves no purpose. But actually, echolalia can serve a number of useful purposes for autistic people, so that's what I'm going to explain in this video. Echolalia describes the repetition of words and sounds that an autistic person has heard elsewhere. Or mitigated, which is similar, but they might change some of the words or the order of the words when repeating. Echolalia can be immediate, as in repeating immediately after hearing the word or sound, or delayed, which means that you would repeat the word or sound some hours or days later. What many people don't realise is that echolalia is common amongst all children as they are learning to speak. In early childhood development, children often repeat words made by their caregivers as part of the process of learning to speak. In typically developing children, echolalia reduces as language is gradually acquired, usually stopping altogether by the time the child is 3. Past the age of 3 and going into adulthood, autistic people might use echolalia for a number of reasons. Sometimes multiple reasons at the same time. You can divide these reasons into interactive echolalia and non-interactive echolalia. I'm going to start by explaining types of non-interactive echolalia. That is, echolalia for the person using it, not as a form of communication. Stimming can be verbal or physical, and it's a useful calming strategy. Autistic people stim to cope with overload, overwhelm, and anxiety. And we also can stim to process and express other emotions, sometimes even positive ones like joy. As an autistic adult, I predominantly use echolalia as a form of stimming. If I hear a phrase or a sound or even a catchy chorus from a song, I'll repeat it over and over again because it feels really satisfying, nice and calming. Autistic people might also use echolalia to calm themselves in a different way as a form of self-reassurance, by using a script to comfort themselves through a difficult task or situation. I repeat, it's fine, I'm totally fine, out loud on repeat when I'm feeling overwhelmed or like I'm in a stressful situation. Or they might talk through the steps of a task as they have been told them by somebody else. For example, saying, take off my coat, then take off my shoes, take off my coat, then take off my shoes, as a reminder of what they need to do when they enter the house. Echolalia can happen when a situation prompts a particular echo. For example, singing an advertisement for a particular product when they see that product in a supermarket. Or as a way of labelling and identifying an object, or a place, or a person. For example, seeing an apple and repeating an apple a day keeps the doctor away. The next uses of echolalia are examples of interactive echolalia, that is to say that the aim of the echolalia is to communicate with someone. It can be helpful to use repeated words or scripts as conversation when original words would be too difficult or would feel stressful, or when the person doesn't have the language to express themselves by crafting words or sentences and using original intonation. The echolalia might be something they've heard on TV or an advert, or it might be something that they've heard somebody else say, that they then use to communicate a need or to initiate an interaction. For example, they might say, do you want a biscuit, to indicate that they want a biscuit. Or sing a theme tune from a particular TV show to indicate that they would like to watch that show. I also want to mention a few behaviours which are similar to, but not the same as echolalia. Echopraxia, which means repeating other people's movements and gestures. It's not intentional, it's often more like a reflex, and the person doing it might not even realise that they're doing it. And scripting, which is similar to echolalia in that you might be using words or sentences that you've heard elsewhere, but it's different in that it's more like a planned script that's considered ahead of the interaction, used as a way of mitigating awkward silences or navigating social situations. Before I finish, I also want to mention internal echolalia. Looking at discussions about echolalia online by other autistic people, some people are saying that they experience something that feels very, very similar to echolalia, but instead of being out loud, the words and sounds are repeating inside their head. To be honest, initially I thought that this was just like what happens to everyone, like an earworm. But through learning from the autistic people who have spoken to me about this, they tell me that it has a different quality to that and it feels much more like echolalia. I'm not going to go into detail because this is something that I'm still learning about, but if you feel that you experience internal echolalia, I'd love it if you could leave me a comment explaining what that is like for you, because I just love to keep learning about other autistic people's experiences because I feel like it enhances the content that I can make. Thanks for watching today. If you liked the video, please do hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. If you'd like to support me as a creator, you can join my YouTube Members Club or my Patreon. See you next time. Goodbye.